What's up, guys? Jordan from Bennett's Customs. We're back on the Roadster. In our previous episode, you may have seen we got the jig set up for the frame. The frame's on it right now, and what I need to do is get the body just kind of like loosely fitted on the frame so I know where everything's going to sit, especially with the cross member and our rear end, so that I get all the fitment right. So if you guys are familiar, or if not, when putting a Model A frame, or sorry, a Model A body onto a 32 frame, you can do it without pinching it, and by pinching it I mean narrowing the kind of the front of the frame rails. But because 32s have a large kick up in the rear part of the frame that goes over top of the axle, a Model A one, which I have one actually here I can show you as an example, is dead flat the whole way through. So what needs to happen is, in the subframe behind this wheel well, needs to be trimmed out in order to get those to fit up. And then usually people actually cut through here, which might be an option. It probably will be the option that we end up doing, is to cut these off, because this will hang way out the back, and this is usually designed for where the 32 fuel tank would sit. And I had thought of that for an option with this, but I think I'm kind of gone away from that idea. So we are just going to use the stock fuel tank, and that'll allow us to put the seat way back like I've done in my previous Roadsters, and then, you know, we'll have room for the dicky seat. So I am unfortunately going to pull out this really nice seat frame. I'll just swing around on the other side here. So what has to happen is I need to fit this body, cut those bits out of the subframe, and then I need to basically take this whole section of the floor out. And the reason I'm doing that, I had mentioned about doing the X member and putting those two kind of channel bits to kind of tighten up the frame. And I'm just going to hold off on that at the moment, because what I want to do is I really want to sit quite low in this, and I've explained it before. In my previous Roadsters, like, I've always kind of had to sit right down, because I really like having that nice chopped kind of top, and, you know, really getting those bows to sit down for the roof. And now if I'm sitting in it, I'm clearly way too tall for these cars, so I need to get my butt way back if possible. So in my previous one, I had designed and fabricated the seat up where it actually came up behind here, and the foam actually came out and came down. So there was actually a fair bit of foam there, but the seat actually kind of finished right there. So it looked really nice, but it was able to get, you know, my butt and back all the way to allow for a bit of room for my feet. So what I'm thinking about with this one is, once this is all out, I can easily fabricate a little floor up. But I'm thinking about actually making a section that sits quite low, and it'll sit inside the frame rails of the 32 frame. And what that'll do is it'll allow me to put the seat in, and I'll kind of have my legs kind of straight out. There won't be too much of a bend. It might be uncomfortable, but we're going to figure it out. But all that's going to do is get me sitting way down. So, you know, I'd actually sit comfortable. I can have my arm kind of up on the door, and, you know, that tiny little windshield that we're planning, at least I'll actually be able to see straight out of it and not have to look down to look through it. So in the previous one, I always looked right at the bar, and it was kind of annoying. So anyways, enough talking. What we're going to do now, I'm just going to bust all the rivets out of this. We're going to pull this frame, there's floor section and seat frame out, and then we will lift it onto the frame and see where we need to cut. So let's get into it. boys are helping me put the body on. Josh has got gloves on. He's got delicate hands. It's too much admin these days.
Okay, so we're gonna go down.
Okay, down to Jack and Liam. Are you guys all right?
Yep.
Jack! Okay. Good shit. Oh my God. I'm just hanging over the edge. Josh is fucking. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we need to come to like here, Josh. See those indents?
With this.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Hanging.
What are you doing?
We got to come to here.
100 mil. Do better.
150. Good. Okay. All right, so you saw us lift it up, and basically I was just doing a few measurements to know where to do kind of the cut out of the subframe, so that it would get over top of this kick up here. Mind that was just us lifting. So what I had done was I used the plasma cutter. I didn't show it because the battery died, but I just, like, this is kind of the subframe kind of set up, and it goes straight through and would have gone through here. I actually have the pieces. I'll just show you what I cut out. So this is, I believe, that side. So I actually cut this whole piece out. And I probably could have measured it and cut it with a grinder and got it a little bit cleaner, but it's okay because I have to remake this section anyway. So this is gonna have to come, you know, up here and kind of roll over. So I'll replicate this, but it'll actually have a curve that will replicate that. So, you know, that's kind of what we're working with. So we're gonna try and make this like that. So right now, all I'm doing, I had to cut and trim this out. So I'm just gonna grind all this nice and smooth, making it kind of look like it's not there. And then in this position here, I'm just gonna tack this and then I'll grind that smooth. So everything's kind of back intact where it should be on both sides. You can see there. And then I'm just gonna square this off and I'll just clean this up a bit, just giving me a little bit of a lip to be able to weld the other one too. So we're gonna try and do that now. So watch me grind. So we're just waiting for Moose. He's bringing the motor mounts that I need for the 32, the ones that go off the front of the block, so that I can mount the transmission to the motor and we can fit the transmission mount to the stock 32 K-member. And then once we have the motor and transmission fitted, then we can start to fit the 36 rear end. So we got car here, 36 rear end here, We have to do a little bit of leaf spring modifications to fit the cross member for it, but this is kind of just how it's sitting. So while we're waiting for this, we have something kind of fun I can just quickly whip up. I need to get it, it's been stored in the toilet for ages and takes up a ton of room. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. Well, this would have been, quite a few videos back while I was in Canada. Scrolling on Facebook Marketplace. Randomly, we were going to Calgary to go see a bunch of family. And we were kind of halfway between, we were almost there. I think we were in Invermere. And I was just looking, seeing what was for sale, and came across this very big sign. Thought it would look amazing in the workshop, and it's kind of a funny one for having in Australia. So, yeah, basically, long story short, we went, Dad and I looked at it, and we were able to somehow fit it all in the back of the Suburban, take it home, and after a really nice visit with family and a pile of other parts somehow fit in the back, we had all this packed in the back of the Suburban, Dad and I up front, and my partner Casey and my mom in the back seat, and unfortunately they weren't really able to recline their seats very far, and they had these things basically right at the back of their heads. So I don't think they're too thrilled about it, but I was pretty happy to score it. So I'm gonna unwrap it right now, put you on a time lapse and show you what it is, and yeah, some of you may know exactly what it is as soon as you see it, and others may not. So let's pull it apart. To have a large double-double, please, and a dozen Timbits, and make half of those sour cream and glazed. That's my go-to. Used to be. Look at that. For those who don't know what it says Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons is Canada's finest coffee establishment. It's been around forever, and everyone knows Tim Hortons. So it's the greatest place to go and get an average sandwich and a coffee with 16 liters of sugar in it. So, yeah, have a look. Pretty funny. They're obviously relatively large letters. And this was actually done by company called New Art Signs, and it's dated December 20th, 1995. I was 5 years old, believe it or not, but this was kind of North Calgary, just above the city, and this was part of their, obviously this was the main sign that stuck out front and endured many cold winters and nice summers. So now it's going to live here and be put on the wall. So thinking, we have our Snatch one. Little quick backstory, that was a hot dog place in town. Didn't last very long. They made like deluxe loaded hot dogs and stuff like that, and they called it Snatch, and it had a upside down triangle with a hot dog going through it. And many mums of this beautiful place whinged about it, and others thought it was great, thought it was a very funny little tactic. We have our Tim Hortons, our A&W sign up there. I got that in Kelowna, I think. I was with Carl from Make It Custom, and him and I were going to do some picking. Went to a crazy place that had the most incredible amount of early speed parts, Hemi stuff, literally like a pallet stacked with vintage and really nice early flathead intakes and heads, like early stuff. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to buy anything, and somehow I made a deal on that A&W sign, which I thought was really funny. So, but yeah, seems how we have that wall's kind of full, and I have some more kind of stuff that's going to go along that wall there. That is for the projector. That's the old SWC sign that I used to have across the street. I made that one. It lights up as well, so I might relocate that to over here. But I'm thinking the Tim Hortons one's got to go along here because it's very, very big. And then, you know, this wall is going to end up going. We're gutting that out. Office is going upstairs. This is also, a lot of you guys have asked about this. And that's just in a 3031 Model A grill shell with a nice little tail light up the top. And it is a bunch of tiny little daisies that signify exactly what your imagination is making it to be. What I have is a little bit of, I think this is 75 by 25 rectangle tubing. It's just a piece that is over 6 meters long, I think 6.3 maybe. And what I'm going to do is just cut this and actually use it as a backing. And I'm just going to screw it into the back of this to make it fit.
Down to my last penny, and my insurance is high on my beat up all right, 'cause I'm living on the rough side of the city. Yeah, it ain't cheap being poor. 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 I work hard for my pay, and they take it away, and they wonder why the hell I'm so poor.
So it's all screwed down. I might actually now just quickly pre-drill where I'm going to bolt it to the wall. So we'll do that now.
It ain't cheap being poor. It ain't cheap being poor. No, it ain't cheap being poor. It ain't cheap being poor. I work hard for my pay, and they take it away, and they wonder why the hell I'm so poor. It ain't no wonder why the hell I'm so poor.
Okay, so we got the subframe like trimmed out enough to be able to just kind of gauge where this is going to sit, and just going off a few, you know, reference photos of cowl to kind of like points of reference. I know that that's roughly where it's about going to sit, and then we just stuck the hood and cowl sides, or the hood sides, just to see what it was going to look like. So it's off the table, which is great. The frame is done, finished. You know, as you saw, all the work that we had put into it, it's finished now. Everything's straight and true, which is great. And what I need to do in order to kind of get this thing any closer to fitting properly is to get the motor, the transmission, and the rear end fitted, because I've explained it a couple times. The only way to truly get this body to sit properly is to have that wheel circumference, and you can kind of match this inside wheel well to that. The worst thing would be to have everything mocked up, it's all bolted in, and then, you know, your wheel's kind of sitting back here, and you got you know, say an inch on this side, and there's an inch tire hanging out on this side, so everything's kind of off center. So really want to make sure proportion-wise that when you look at this thing sideways, that the tire is perfectly sitting within this wheel well. So what we're going to do is I finally got my motor mounts from Travis. Thank you, Travis. And so I'm going to pull the flathead out. We're going to put those 32 front kind of ears on it. And then we're going to stick just a bare transmission that I have with the 32 rear mounting plate. We're going to get that fitted in. And then I'm going to show you what we have to do with this 36 rear end and leaf spring to fit the curved style cross member that we have, being the factory one. Once that's done, I can then fit the cross member, cut and shorten the drive shaft and the torque tube. Once everything is then kind of fitted properly, I'll fit the front end. We'll get the axle, leaf spring in, get the hubs on. The same with the rear. I'll remove the wide fives. We'll put on the, I think they're like 41 or maybe something like that. Maybe even, nah, I don't know if they're late model. I'm getting them from Ben. Thank you, Ben, for hooking us up with those as well. So I'll be able to eliminate the wide fives for now, but I am going to kind of keep that just for, a rainy day in case I do want to change this thing back to wide fives. I think they look really cool, so that'd be kind of neat. Yeah, so then we'll be able to get this thing basically as a roller, and I can just stick a set of wheels and tires on it that I will use, the kind of the exact ones I'll be using. And then once that's on and as a roller, then we can just continue ticking off the boxes, and then that will be, fitting this, fitting the floor, et cetera, et cetera. So, but until we do that, we are going to have this gap. The body's not going to quite fit right until we have this thing as a roller. Then we can put this on and make sure everything fits properly. So what we're going to do right now, a few of us going to lift this body off. We're going to get the frame down on the ground on some jack stands. And then I got to move a whole crap load of stuff because, knowing me, I was super smart, packed all this junk in front of it. And I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's the flathead just deep in there. So I need to move all this stuff, and then we'll get the flathead out, get the transmission on, which is somewhere out there, and then we'll get this thing bolted in. So.
Oh, nah. Oh, fuck, I can feel it going too. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I can't get comfortable. Ah. Oh, don't feel me. Ah, yes, I can't do that. Oh, I'm just gonna lay here for a minute.
All right, that hurt a lot, but took some painkillers and they're masking the pain at the moment. So no crazy heavy lifting for me for a little while. Tall, bad back, happens quite often. Anyways, back to regular programming. So we now have the frame on jack stands. It's sitting level. Maybe not quite, definitely not the ride height, but that's okay. What we have here is my 59 AB flathead, and we have a 39 box that I've just had as a spare. Has a little repair panel, but that's okay. But anyways, what I'm going to do is just use this as a mock-up. So this will just get bolted to the back of our flathead. Still has the clutch and flywheel assembly on there. So it actually still has the bell housing bolts, which is fantastic. So what I'm going to do is fit this, and then we're going to fit these wicked little ears. These are stock 32 mounts for the front. So they sit, I'll just show you. So you have your standard ears that come off your water pumps, and that would usually utilize your bushing that would then go to your mount. But we have these little guys, so they Might have to do a little bit of clearancing. Oh no, they fit really nice. Oh no, they go this way. Wait, I'm confused. They go one way or the other. I forget what it is. They might be pretty close to this water pump. But we can figure that out as we go, because I might be changing these. I got some twin pulley setup that I would love to run on this thing just for aesthetics. So anyways, what we're gonna do is put the lift plate on the motor. We're gonna lift this up with our engine hoist, and then we'll get these bolted on. Then we will run our motor mounts. I just found these, luckily, had a set of them. So they will go in there in the stock position for the 32. And then I pulled this off an old 32 Trans while I was at home. It's a bit rooted, probably not gonna actually run this on the street, but for mock-up purposes, this will do just fine. So once that's bolted onto the back of the transmission, this will then get fitted in like so. And then on the back side, we have where your coupler for the torque tube would then fit. So then once the motor and tranny are in, then we know we have a distance, and then we can start mocking up the rear end. So let's, I might put you on a little time lapse, and what I'm gonna do is lift plate on the motor, bolt everything on, and then we'll lift it in there. Motor is in, bolted in, which is excellent. I had to just clean and kind of chase these threads, obviously because this has never had 32 mounts put on this motor. So they were definitely gummed up with years of grime. So we cleaned those out. The threads are awesome. We got them fitted in, kind of got to work on motor mounts a little bit. And yeah, we're gonna try and figure out how this is gonna kind of work a little bit better. I don't really like the way they're sitting in there at the moment, but for mock-up purposes, it'll totally do for now until we finalize the motor position. So now that we have the motor and transmission in the frame, I can then grab the 36 rear end that's over here, and we can start to get everything kind of fitted. Got to obviously pull the torque tube off, and we will start to modify the leaf spring in order to fit the cross member. All right, that's a wrap on this episode. Super happy with kind of how far we've got with it so far. Body's kind of on, motor, transmission's bolted in. So now we can, in the next video next week, I will get the leaf spring modified to fit that 32 cross member, as well as we have to shorten both the torque tube and drive shaft. So what I am gonna do, I did kind of forget about that. Inside, I've kind of put that 39 case in there just as a mock-up, but what I'm gonna do is I have a 36 box over there that still has the uni joint on the end, so that way I can actually connect everything to make sure that we get all the measurements right prior to cutting everything, so we know all the measurements that we need. Once that's in, then while I'm up there, luckily I was able to score a set of 40 Ford hubs for the rear. from Ben, so I'll pick those up at the swap meet on Sunday, and I can get those on, and that means we can get wheels and tires on it. We'll do the front end. Unfortunately, I don't have a 32 wishbone, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of mods to see if I can make something work, if I don't find one in time, but I have a few that I could make work, and hopefully it'll kind of do the job that we want it to. But I'd really like to have this thing kind of on wheels, towards next week or into the following one. So that would be really good. And then once that's together, then, everything else will just start ticking all those boxes. So it'll be a really good thing. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed watching me sweat putting up my Tim Hortons sign. It's very zero car related, but it's a pretty cool sign that has a pretty funny story. So I was pretty stoked to stick it up on the wall. And we got a couple more that we'll be putting up. So yeah, we'll show you guys in future videos. And just to let you know, today, actually, a few of our mates have picked up our next order of our flamed long tees. So they're long sleeve, the black ones with the Harley Davidson orange on them. So if you guys are interested in those, they'll be up on our website this week. Maybe just kind of jump over to our Instagram, and we'll let you guys know when they're up on the store. We'll just throw something up. But yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Hit that notifications button, and we will see you next week on another episode of Bennett's Customs.